Welcome to episode 55 of the Inspiration Contagion podcast. This week's show is also being recorded for video, so if you'd prefer to watch, please see the show notes for that YouTube link. This week's guest is Russ Hedge. Russ is an inspiration specialist, coach, and motivational speaker. Russ has 30 plus years of sales and marketing experience. He has built successful teams in multiple industries. In March of 2020, he pivoted and went out on his own, coaching, doing motivational speaking, podcasting, and writing his book. He is truly living his passion and his why. With that, welcome, Russ.
Well, thank you so much, Holly. I appreciate it. It's wonderful to be here. I'm honored to be your guest.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Russ, it's always a pleasure connecting with you. I also wanted just to have you tell us a little bit more about your background for the audience.
Oh, absolutely. So, I have, first of all, let me just tell you that I am a husband. I have a beautiful wife of 33 plus years, and that is the joy of my life. I am a father. I have two wonderful children, 30-year-old daughter and a 27-year-old son. And he is married, so I have a beautiful daughter-in-law as well. And I have always been really family focused, man of faith, but very family focused in all that I do. And I have been in sales and marketing pretty much since I came out of college. I actually did work for a public relations firm when I first came out of college, which really is still sales and marketing. I mean, it's the same idea. You're selling and marketing people's public image. So it has been a wonderful 30 plus years of doing that. And I was working for a large corporation, a franchise of a large corporation just before COVID hit. And when COVID hit, life changed for everybody. I had started my side hustle doing coaching, motivational speaking, and set my website in motion, podcasting a little, and the outline for my book. It was kind of, the beginnings of all that. And then whammo, COVID hits, everything changes. And that was my opportunity. I just felt it was my God-given opportunity to go and live my passion. And so there you go. About a year ago, stepped out on my own and haven't looked back since.
That's incredible. I love that story and that journey. And it's really, I'm sure, inspiring for people that are listening that you looked at that as an opportunity and not just a challenge where you were kind of forced to pivot. But like you said, it was your God given opportunity to step into exactly what you were dreaming of building and had already set the foundation for. So, Russ, that's inspiring alone, but I also want to ask you for our listeners, what makes you such an inspirational leader, or what's your secret sauce?
Well, again, I have to give God the credit. It's my God-given personality. I was given a personality of I'm high energy, but I'm also very easygoing. I love people, and so I love to reach out, encourage, and inspire people. I like to make people smile. And I could tell a story when my kids were young. I love to embarrass them because they were super embarrassed when I talked to strangers, which I do all the time. So we'd be walking and there might be some rougher characters, walking by, young people that were trying to be, and I'd always go, "Hey, how's it going?" And I'd smile at them. And then they would go, "Oh, hi." And it would completely change. And the thing that I learned early on in my life is the way that you are projecting yourself ends up coming back to you. So I love to inspire and encourage people because it inspires and encourages me. And so that's why I call myself an inspiration specialist.
I love that. And I agree from knowing you off the air, Russ, you're definitely an inspiration specialist. I love that story of embarrassing your kids. I had a similar experience with my mom when I was younger, the teenage years. we'd be on a walk or we'd be at the grocery store, and she would have to wave or say hello to every person. And it was her goal to get them to smile back. And, as a teenager, I thought this is mortifying and I thought something was wrong with her. And then as an adult, I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am 110% my mom, but I think it's great. It actually, like you said, it transforms that person, it opens them up, and it shifts their whole energy when they feel like somebody else has actually seen them. So I love that.
Yeah, it does. And what I love about that too, I like to have fun. And so when I love to embarrass my kids, it's just out of fun, and they know that. But I have friends that have told me, "Oh yeah, I don't want to do that because it embarrasses my son." I'm like, "Really? It's my life goal to embarrass my son." I mean, it's not like I'm not worried about it. I am trying to do it. So yeah, no, it's so important because I think it taught them lessons too. It taught them lessons that, when you treat people with kindness, even if they're not as out there, although my daughter is pretty close, not as out there as I am with saying hi to everybody, it still goes to show that how you treat people really makes a difference in your own life, because it all comes back to you. Everything comes back to you, what you put out.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Keep on embarrassing those kiddos, even though they're adults now.
You bet.
So, Russ, I wanted to ask you, since you're an inspiration specialist, how do you define inspiration?
Well, good question. That's really, wow. No one's ever asked me that. I mean, I have a good answer, but yeah. Um, I define inspiration as adding value and um, adding value and really caring about people. Okay, so you inspire people when you do things in your actions that add value and really encourage them. And a lot of people will say they can walk, I mean, talk a good talk, but you really need to live it. So to inspire people, you've got to really be living what you're saying. And so, yeah, I'm always looking to add value to people, to just show them that I care about them. Because just like when you and I have talked, I truly care about people. I care about what you're doing. I think it's fabulous, all the stuff that you're doing, and what you're putting together with your business. And I care about those things. So when I get together with people, I want to be inspiring and uplifting. And I do that by really being present, by caring, and by showing them with my actions that it means something to me, not just, not just saying something. It's kind of like if you're talking to somebody, and we all fight with this. People like me that are really active fight with this all the time. And that is looking around, looking over their shoulder, showing them with action that you're not really there. You don't really care. And so I have to fight that, because I do, but I also tend to be easily distracted. So, but you need to show with your actions. So I've really worked my whole life on focus, on eye contact, taught my kids that growing up, really being there and being intentional with people. So I think that's how you show, that's how you inspire people.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that today, more than ever, presence is more difficult, especially while we're being separated during COVID and being connected on Zoom. And you think you're making eye contact, but maybe where the camera is, you're not making eye contact. And then I'd even argue people that are at home with their families, there's this competition for attention and our devices, right? So for
Yeah.
me, one of the nicest things is when I spend time with loved ones or friends or connections, and they're not constantly looking at their cell phone. I mean, to me, that's just really, really disrespectful. It's definitely showing you are not interested.
Right. And I think that all of us battle with that nowadays, because there's so much going on. And if for those of us like you and I, that we're doing our business and we use these electronic devices, I have really, I mean, it's something that I struggle with as well. And that's why what I do when I coach people and I talk to them, I always tell them, I'm not telling you these things because I do them perfectly and I've got them all figured out. I know what you need to do from experience. And that, I think, is the best teacher. Teaching people through your own maybe inadequacies and experience a lot of times means more to them than you saying, hey, Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I got it all together. I'm awesome. Be like me. I don't think people really respond well to that. So yeah, so I really try to work on those areas too. And presence is difficult, especially for highly energized and easily distracted people like myself.
No, I agree completely. I mean, it's definitely something where I have seasons where I've got that really handled well, and then there are seasons where I really, really don't, and it's kind of an ebb and a flow. And for me, it's more my monkey mind gets distracted. I get obsessed about a business problem or a business opportunity, and I can't stop that chatter.
Right.
And that can be really distracting with presence more than my phone getting in the way. But we all have these challenges. And I agree, like the more you express that you have tools to handle them, but you're not perfect. I think that when we're marketing to people and we are expressing perfection, it makes us inaccessible and unrelatable. So I love that you're sharing that, you're still struggling with these, but you have tools and you can advise them on what works well because you still struggle with them.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. I mean, if you seem unapproachable and you seem unrelatable, you're not going to help anybody. And I've struggled with that over the years, and I've learned. See, I really believe that we're all on a journey, and it's up to us to learn from the journey. We're going to have good days and bad days. We're going to have good things happen to us and bad things happen to us. But we need to learn from that, and we need to learn and grow and improve in time. And we also need to look daily at how we filter life. What are we filtering life through? And I'm really a big advocate of. I have an awesome filter. So we all have our lens or our filter, right? Well, every morning I put on the awesome filter because I decide up front today is going to be awesome. And although some people will say to me, "Yeah, there's no way you can't do that," I can do whatever I want. I can choose to act and to have the attitude that I want no matter what happens. Does not mean that bad things won't happen, because good and bad things happen every day. Well, how do we choose to respond to those? So, I mean, that's a big thing for me, is daily just making sure that I'm keeping the right attitude, the right mindset, and filtering things the way that I want to filter them.
I like that. That's a good one. Awesome filter. It makes me think of the Lego movie, Everything is Awesome, that song. I choose a love filter every day because I think a lot of people live in fear, and the way to combat that is with love. So, now, Russ, I want to ask you, since we're talking about inspiration and success, how do you define success for yourself and how did you arrive at that definition?
Okay. So the easy answer there for me is living a significant life and making a difference with others. That's how I define success. I have a very clear why in life, a very clear purpose, because I talk about that a lot. And in fact, I write down. I do a little. Let me grab this here. Um, I journal every day, and I've got a whole set of journals. But anyway, that's a long story. Don't do a whole bunch of journals. They've just grown over time. But journaling is a great thing because you can write down your thoughts. You can write down your goals, your aspirations, your objectives, your worries, your cares, whatever. And there's something magical about putting it on paper. And so success to me is really living my why. And my why, I'm going to read it so I get it exactly right, is to inspire and encourage people so that they can live a purpose-driven life of significance. So I feel like if I add value, if I make a difference, and I help people to live a purpose-driven life of significance, that I am successful. It's great to make some money with that, but money does not define success. I could go through life poor, but if I'm making a difference, if I make you smile, if I make you feel better after our conversation, if I, really add value to people, I feel awesome. And, I feel, as my friends over across the pond like to say, it's brilliant. Brilliant. Yes, that's their word for awesome. Brilliant. Everything is brilliant. So, no, I mean, that is definitely my answer for success. And how I arrived at that was learning with time. I mean, I've learned like everybody else. I probably didn't feel that way Well, I didn't feel that way 30 years ago when I started in my career, or 30 plus years ago. It's probably, I hate to, I just say, keep saying plus because it gets longer all the time. But no, I didn't arrive that way to begin with, but I did learn that pretty quickly in life, that made a difference. I think my first job, I worked for a huge firm in downtown Portland, and it was really exciting. I thought I had arrived, I graduated from college and I was all that, and I went in thinking I knew it all, and learned quickly I didn't. And I learned quickly when I was able to reach out and collaborate with other people and utilize their skills and talents, it made me more successful. When I added value to them and when I helped them be significant and tell them how great they were, which was true, it made me look better. So I just was able to learn these things, I think, early on, that really aided me a lot through the years.
Yeah, there's so much power in collaboration and service and listening to others and helping them hit their dreams and their goals. We're
Yeah,
all better together. So that's a beautiful definition of success. I love that. Now,
absolutely.
on the way to success, Russ, there are challenges and obstacles. What are a few of your bigger challenges or obstacles you had to overcome in achieving success?
Well, yeah, I think the first one was realizing I didn't know everything. So, most 20-year-olds think they know everything. My kids did. My son, especially, who I love. I have great kids, by the way. But and I was definitely that way. I thought that I knew everything. When you graduate from college, you get a good job and you feel like you've made it and you know everything. And you got to be careful, and especially when you get elevated into leadership positions. I was listening to a couple really super good leadership experts this morning, Craig Groeschel and John Maxwell. And I really love both of their stuff, but they were talking about the fact that uh, leadership is not a position, right? And so that's something I had to learn. That was a struggle that I had. Just because I was a manager or over people did not really make me a leader. That's where leading by example and adding value and encouraging and helping your team to be better, that makes you a leader. When you're actually leading them by example, when you're not just throwing your weight around. So that was a big thing. Another thing I think was, the best way to deal with people. And I found through my years of sales and marketing, when I was selling, the best way to really sell was uh, to really connect with people. I'm all about connection, right? So you and I connect and we get to know each other and we become friends. And then next thing you know, if I have something going on, you're interested already. You're already interested in what I'm doing, right? And so I'm not having to do a hard sell on people because they already think, wow, this guy's been cool. He's been around. He's been interested in me. He hasn't been throwing out, trying to sell me every time he walks in the door. And so it makes a big difference. So that was another big lesson I learned, that connecting with people and really meeting people where they are. A lot of times you walk in, even when I'm in sales, I walk in to see you, you're having a crazy bad day, and you're somebody in your family just died or whatever. That's a day to take a deep breath, listen to the person, show them that you empathize with them and you care about what they're going through, wish them the best, pray for them, whatever you're going to do, and out the door you go. And that's where you build relationships and connection with people, and that's where you become successful over time with whatever you're doing.
I like that. Yeah, connection is so important. Being able to pivot and empathize when it's not an appropriate moment to sell, but instead just building that connection and that rapport and supporting that person, because we've all had those days. And the worst thing you could do is try to sell somebody on one of those days. But I also love that the first challenge that you shared was around not having all the answers and being able to admit that you didn't know it all. And I think that's so important. And you mentioned too that it's easy to go the opposite direction of that when climb the ladder and you're in leadership roles. And I have to agree, it can be easy to do that. I've personally found that as I climbed the ladder, that I found it really humbling. And my first project to do would be to get to know the team's dreams, challenges, make sure they were in the right positions, and really just be super humble and just try to learn everything I could before I try to make any changes. The worst thing a leader can do is come in and make changes based on assumptions when they don't know what's going on, which I think is related to your connection and curiosity lens that you're using when you're leading as well.
Yeah, I think it's critical to listen. Like you said, when I took, so the big joke is I got a BS in communications from Oregon State. And so yeah, it was definitely a BS. It was a Bachelor of Science though. But I learned in that, it was interesting. They taught you how to speak and do a whole bunch of things, but I had one class on listening, one class the entire time. And the old adage, you have two ears and one mouth. You should listen twice as much as you talk. For us talkers, that's difficult even when you know that, but it's a skill that we all have to really work on constantly. It's an intentional, purposeful skill that we need to develop and continue to work on daily, because it makes a huge difference in how people perceive you. And we've all made mistakes. We've all stepped on, our own, words as we've been trying to do something in our business or whatever. But I think that when we listen to people and we really know and understand what's going on, then life is a lot easier. And all of us, that's a challenge for all of us. But it's something I've worked on constantly, is just really listening to people and then making the right moves from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Listening is a skill that we need more of. And I completely agree. The education system, it would be great if we taught children and people in college some of these other soft skills that are so essential, that are even more challenging in society today. But I digress. So, Russ, you identified as a heart-centered leader. So I wanted to ask you, what does heart-centered leadership mean to you?
Well, that's a super good question as well. Wow, you're just full of good questions. Uh, a it's life has got to come from your heart. My number one thing that I tell young people when I talk to them: if you don't love your job, quit. And I always pause and they look at me like, what? Well, you probably should get another job first. I mean, be responsible, but you should not be, if you're early in your career, especially if you're doing something you don't like as a means to get to what you like let's say you need a job, so you work at McDonald's, which you hate, because 6 months from now you're going to be able to get a different position and move to do what you do love, and you're just trying to make money and pay for things to get to that. Okay, I can go with that. But you need to have purpose, and it's got to be passion from your heart to what you're doing. What a miserable life, I think, to be doing things just to do them, just for a paycheck, to be watching the clock and can't wait till you get off work to go home to do something else. Most of the time, people that live like that get home and then they do the same thing. Oh man, I can't wait till I get the dishes done, because then I can go watch this TV show. I can't wait till this. I can't wait till that. They're always wishing their life away. And you work so much of your life. Who wants to wish that much of your life away, right? I mean, that's basically what you're doing. So heartfelt leadership is really helping people to define their passion, define what their purpose is, and what do they really love and want to do. Like you had said earlier, when you go in and you take over a team and you look to see if people are in the right positions, you really know right off the bat. Usually you need to listen and you need to take time, but you usually know right off the bat. You can tell the people that aren't, their heart's not in it. Now, maybe there's reasons that they can overcome, and maybe they can move on and really turn it into a passion that they love. But there are so many people stuck in jobs that that's just what they are. They're stuck in them because they don't really love what they do. Just because I love talking, just because I love doing sales and marketing, there's people, and I love getting up and talking in front of people. That just mortifies some people. They would hate that, right? So, I mean, you got to do something you're really passionate about. And that's where the heartfelt leadership comes from: leading and helping others to do the same.
Yeah, sadly, I have to say that 90% of people in my experience from leading teams are incredibly unhappy. They despise their jobs. And
Mhm.
I remember having so many conversations with my employees saying, if you hate your job, find another job. And not like forcing them to leave, but just like, if you're really this miserable, please,
Right.
by all means, however we can help you find the right job at a different company or within this company, go for it. Like, you're
Right.
not serving yourself, you're not serving the team, you're not serving the company if you're miserable. In fact, one of my clients today, we just had a conversation and she's miserable and she's not early in her career, like you were saying, but she's close to retirement. And it's interesting. So many people stay for the retirement benefits, but they've got, 5 or 10 years left. And you have to ask yourself, is it worth that 5 or 10 years for that benefit, especially if you could go out on your own? So I think, like you're saying, it's helping people see additional opportunities and options for how they navigate that responsibly, but in a way where they're not feeling miserable and being pulled down.
Yeah, and I think that some people are too bound up in rules. This is the way we do it. This is what I have to do, and maybe a little too responsible. I mean, there is a time just to say, the only way I'm going to get out of this is quit and leave and force myself to do something different. There is times when that is appropriate. So, I mean, people need to really one thing that I do, I'm doing currently doing a workshop, purpose to profit. Purpose. Okay. So your passion and your purpose in life, if you don't have that set, if you don't have a firm foundation of why you're doing things, your why in life, why you're doing things, then you are not going to be satisfied. You're not going to live a significant life, and you're not going to be productive or really get out there and profit from life because you're not into it. Just like you said, people that aren't into their job, the employer doesn't want to have them because they're not a good employee because they don't work hard. They can't wait to get off. The employee doesn't want to be there because they hate their job and they're just, trying to get a paycheck. And that's just a bad situation. So, but it does come from leadership on down. You could take a situation and with the right leadership, you can turn it into a group of people that love their job. So that's something that companies need to look at as well. But I think it's really important to analyze their, what their purpose is, the company, and what the individual's purpose are, because they have to be aligned so they can move forward and make things happen.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, a lot of times companies aren't really good at helping employees connect their personal purpose to the
Yeah.
team and the company's purpose. And so they feel kind of lost. They don't see how they're adding value to something that's larger. They feel like their role is unimportant. So there are some people that are in the right positions, they are aligned, but it's not connecting to the bigger value of the business. And so that's where leadership and heart-centered leadership is really, really essential.
Yeah.
So, Russ, I wanted to ask you, at what age did you start believing in yourself?
Wow. I think I always believed in myself. And the reason is because I had awesome parents. So I was talking to a really good friend of mine the other day, and he had a stepmother who said, "You're worthless, you'll never amount to anything, you're a disaster." That's how she would talk to him. So he grew up with not having confidence in himself, not having self-worth and purpose in his life. I grew up with parents who said, "You're awesome. You can do anything you want. You have great talents and abilities, and we're going to be there to support you." They were the kind of parents that were at everything that I did. And I did a lot. I was one of those crazy kids that was involved in everything, from music to drama to sports, anything that I could get involved in, get my hands in, I was in. And they were at everything. So because of that, I really think I always believed in myself. There were times when that will wane at times. You'll be in a situation and it won't be as good. I remember a story that I tell in my book, by the way, which, I haven't thrown out an ad for my book yet, which I'm not, I know this isn't a big ad for me, but there you go. Befuddled, live the life you choose. So anyway, in my book, there is a story about when I was in grade school, and I was really had to work at. I was a good athlete, but I was not great, right, at that point. So I had to work at it harder than most. And I remember the couple of the guys that were a little, I was well liked, but I wasn't the most popular. And so they would kind of say things to me, hey, you're not a starter, blah, 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 this stuff. And it would really kind of dig at me a little. But I learned and also because I had a good support system at home, which helped a lot, it made me work harder. It made me work harder to achieve more. And there was that day when I was a starter. And the reason that I was a starter is the coach told everybody that I worked the hardest, that I had improved the most, and that I had earned a spot on the starting lineup. And that was because I worked at it. And that made the things like that would build my self-confidence even more. So over my life, I would always work hard. I'd work really hard at what I was doing. And then that would always pay off in the long run. So yeah, long story, but there you go.
It's a good story. Yeah. So, Russ, for people that maybe didn't have that idyllic life, growing up lifestyle with their parents, how, as a leader, a heart-centered leader, do you show belief in others and help them perhaps rebuild the belief in themselves?
Yeah, you just said the key right there. Somebody needs to step forward and be a leader that helps people, be a mentor, be a friend, somebody who cares and shows people they have value. Because really, what is the old adage? You're the culmination of the five closest people to you. So if the five closest people to you are telling you you're worthless, you're going to grow up just feeling worthless until you get around people that are telling you, hey, you really have talents. You are really good. You add value to life. There's a reason that you're here. And my friend that I was talking about, he did that. He intentionally got around people that built him up, people that showed him that they cared, and got in situations where he got that lift, that he needed to get out of the situation he was in. And really, I think that's important. We all have a choice, no matter how terrible our life is starting. We have a choice to who we put ourselves around, the environment that we put ourselves in. So I always told my kids, huge thing to me and my wife, the environment that you're in makes all the difference in the world. If you're letting them hang around with a group of kids that are causing trouble and getting in trouble, your kids will cause trouble and get in trouble. That will have ultimately, inevitably, at some point, that will happen because that's their environment. Where if you put them in an environment where they care about school, they care about, doing the right thing and all of that, it's going to put them in a much better situation. So example for me right now, I have the opportunity to reach out, make new friends like you and other people online. And I intentionally gravitate to people that are positive and uplifting and people that add value to me while I'm adding value to them. And so I think that's the way you do it. You make an intentional shift or pivot. That was the big word last year. And you put yourself in the right situation so you can improve your life.
Yeah, yeah. So for people that are listening to this and you're perhaps wondering if your beliefs are not serving you, or you're feeling a lack of confidence, or you're setting a big stretch goal this year and you're not feeling super confident, I'd urge you to stop, reflect, and think about those five people that are closest to you and the language they're using with you. And if it's not language that's supporting you, perhaps don't necessarily need to break up with them, but reconsider your inner circle, reconsider who you're spending the most time with. And like Russ was saying, perhaps use this time as an opportunity to meet people and expand your network for people that are going to support you and where you're going next. So that's a great idea, a great tool for growing this year in 2021. Now, Russ, I was hoping you could share a specific story about how you lead from the heart, perhaps with a coachee or a mentee.
So I love to encourage and help people just getting started, and I love to lead. The A good story would be, I think, Well, this, sometimes you don't know what an impact you have on people until a few years go by, right? And then something happens and you find out, wow, I really did have a big impact on people. So a good example was when I was young, first married, and I'm trying to think if we had kids yet. No, I don't think that we had our children yet. So I was doing a thing called Royal Rangers. It's like a Christian Boy Scouts is basically what it is, right? And so I was working with a lot of young boys, and there was a family that really struggled. They had a lot of issues, and it was really this was kind of a safe place for them. And I was the leader, and I took them camping and fishing, and we did things. And being able to model I was not their father, but being able to model a good male role to them and be able to show them the proper ways to act and do things and to have heartfelt care about life. I was leading from my heart because I really cared about those young boys, and there were times that they were a little mischievous and I thought, man, am I making any difference at all? Then about 10 or 15, but it's probably about 15 years later, I ran into their mom in the store. And she just went on and on and on, that to this day, those boys still talked about what I did for them, how they loved Royal Rangers, how they loved doing that. And that really shows you that, when you're leading and living from the heart, you make that difference. And I've done the same thing in coaching. I coached kids all the way from the time I was in college, all the way through my kids. And to this day, I have people still call me coach and still have a positive, they'll tell my son, man, we loved your dad and it was because of something positive I was doing. And so I think that's what it's all about, is modeling a positive life for others.
I love that. That's a beautiful story. And it is so cool that 15 years later, you can see the impact you had, whether it's, kids you babysat or a program that you participated in, like the Royal Rangers. You never know what that ripple effect is. So the more positivity and good stuff you can put out there while listening to others and leading from the heart, the better. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Russ,
I would,
this has been, oh, go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, this has been a wonderful conversation. We're going to dive into the lightning round if you're ready, but did you have something else you wanted to add?
I am ready for the lightning round. Let's do it.
Okay.
Always ready.
All right. What's your favorite book?
Oh, definitely. It's all about the why. I'm trying to think. I don't have the exact. No, wait. Here it is. Here it is. Start with Why by Simon Sinek. There you go.
Beautiful. What networking or community group do you love most?
Chamber of Commerce.
Beautiful. What's the best one piece of advice you would share with others today?
Live your passion. Live your dreams.
If you could share one message with the world, what would that be?
Okay. One message would be love your family and spend time with those you love.
Hmm. And my last question, what's the legacy you wish to leave behind?
The legacy would be somebody who cared about people and who made a difference in their lives.
Amazing. What you did that's like the fastest lightning round I've had. You like win the lightning award. Everybody gets like super hung up on question 1 and they give me like 10 books and I'm like, it's supposed to be 1. Anyways. All right. So Russ, thank you so much. Russ is actually offering for all of our listeners, he has on his website, which is russhedge.com, there's a free worksheet on how to make a connection. If you go to his website, it's just under his picture at the top of the website. You can get that download today. And it shares 5 simple steps for connecting, especially for those of you that might struggle with connecting and networking. I will also have a link to his social media accounts in the show notes. So be sure to check both of those options out so you can learn more about Russ. With that, thank you so much, Russ.
Thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for having me as your guest.
Absolutely. To our listeners, I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.